listeners to Cosmic Confluence, the space where spirit meets science, healing meets hustle, and soulful conversations illuminate the path forward. I'm your host, Sana, as always, and today we are exploring the transformative power of spirituality and energy healing in the face of adversity. Listeners, my guest is someone who truly embodies the essence of resilience and radiant courage. At just 9 years old, Laura was diagnosed with an eye disease that would eventually take her sight. But what life tried to take away from her physically, she reclaimed it spiritually. Listeners, Laura Bratton is the author of Harnessing Courage and founder of the UBI Global, which is an empowering platform offering coaching and speaking that inspires people to overcome life's greatest challenges with grit and gratitude. Her journey invites us to look beyond what we can see and instead lean into what we can feel, intuit, and energetically align with. And in today's conversation, we'll be diving into how energy healing, spiritual awakening, and the courage to surrender can help us move through even the darkest moments and come out brighter on the other side. So, with that, listeners, let's get ready and dive deep into this soul nourishing conversation. So, Laura, welcome to the show, and it's such an honor to have you with us.
Thank you for the opportunity. I'm excited to dive deep into this conversation.
Beautiful, beautiful. So, Laura, your story resonates so deeply, with what I feel or I believe that some of our deepest breakthroughs they come after a complete breakdown of what we thought life was supposed to look like. So, let's begin with your story. I mean, when you first began to lose your sight, and did you find yourself reaching for something greater, like spiritually or energetically, to anchor you through the fear?
So, my first reaction when I started to lose a significant amount of sight and continued to lose a significant sight, my first reaction was not to dive deep into spirituality energy. My mindset was, oh, if I just be strong and be positive, my vision will come back soon. This won't last forever. So,
Mhm.
I was resistant to the spiritual, to the energy work. And then what I realized over time was the incredible gift. I was resisting an incredible gift. So the gift that energy healing and spirituality brought was deeply, deeply healing. While I didn't regain my sight, I experienced incredible healing through the spirituality, through the energy work.
Mhm. Wow. And then how did your relationship with your inner world it evolve as your outer world changed?
So again, because my first reaction was the denial, my
Mhm.
next mindset was, I can't. My whole inner world was, I can't, I can't, I can't. This is too hard. I don't want to do this. I don't want to be a person who's blind in a sighted world. I can't, I can't, I can't. I cried that. I screamed that. I prayed that. That was my whole mantra. And slowly over time, as I embraced and accept the gift of mindfulness, that is what started the real deep spiritual energetic healing. So, as I took classes in mindfulness, read books on mindfulness, realized the gift, it helped me move through the intense anxiety and depression that I was constantly feeling as I could focus on each thought is just a passing moment. A view where I was viewing each thought as a permanent, concrete, I'm going to live in panic attacks forever. The mindfulness gave me the gift of teaching, just acknowledge that thought and let it go. And
Mhm.
and the other incredible gift that mindfulness gave me was the body scan. So in mindfulness, as you're taught to do a body scan and just become aware of your body,
Mhm.
I wasn't even aware of how I was constantly tensing my shoulders and tightening my stomach to the point that it was just causing deep stress in my body, uh, just clenching my fist. So I wasn't even aware of how I was holding my body, keeping it in such an intense, closed state. So
Mhm.
mindfulness not only gave me the ability to slowly change my inner thoughts,
Mhm.
but it also gave me the ability to relax my body and feel that my hands didn't have to be in a clenched fist. They could just be open and relaxed. My shoulders, my neck could just be relaxed. So I didn't have to feel that intense
Mhm.
pain in my stomach. I could just let that release. So it was both an inner experience of acknowledging the thoughts and letting them go, and then also just that the power of the body scan. And then the third major component was through mindfulness, learning the gift of our breath. So as I was in that intense
Mhm.
panic and depression, I was literally either holding my breath or it was short, shallow, almost like I was panting. It
Mhm.
wasn't deep breathing from my diaphragm. So once mindfulness taught me how to deeply breathe from my diaphragm so that I'm is a full inhale and a full exhale, the healing power of just turning towards and accessing my breath was such a gift and such a powerful. It sounds simple, it doesn't sound like it'll do much, and that's why I resisted it for so long. But
Okay.
once I experienced it in practice, I can't say enough about the healing benefits of just tuning into our breath.
Wow. Wow. You really, say it with so much passion, that, you know, um, most of us, in fact, if I talk about myself, even if there is a slight discomfort, we often um, blame it on the circumstances, or we blame it on the universe, or maybe on ourselves, that why is it happening to me?
Yeah.
I'm the culprit here. And we often get into that vicious loop to not to look for any solution to, which can help us sustain or thrive. And that itself is such a huge blocker. And
Yes.
so, Laura, I mean, when you lost your sight, was it a single pivotal experience, or was it a gradual, journey when you started to embrace, or you discovered energy healing?
So it was very much exactly what you said. It was a gradual experience. So
Mhm.
just as I was in denial and resisted the spiritual part for so long, the inner mindfulness, I also resisted the energy work because my fault was, well, if the energy work can't instantly bring back my sight, it can't do any. There's not going to be any benefit. It can't do anything. So I,
Mhm.
just as you said, we have up those blocks. My block was, okay. If the energy work doesn't instantly give me full 2020 sight, it's not worth doing.
Mhm.
And the gradual experience that gave me the gift of opening up that energy work is once I just finally let down that block and said, okay, I will try this, even just one session. I remember telling a friend, like, okay, I'll just do one Reiki session and just because you're my friend and I trust you. But the gift, what obviously I didn't, my site didn't return 2020. But the incredible gift that I received just from that one session, and then the reason I've continued to do so much energy work over the years
Mhm.
is again that connection that I described with the mindfulness. My inner dialogue relaxed. I
Mhm.
experienced a greater self-compassion of acknowledging, yeah, Laura, this is really, really, really hard. And this would be hard for anyone. That, I was putting myself in this box of, oh, I've just got to get over it. It's just hard for me. But the energy work gave me the gift of that deep self compassion
Mhm.
and that deep self love of just acknowledge it is hard and also choose to embrace the strength that you do have, which comes through the spirituality and the inner work. So that one energy Reiki session led to multiple Reiki sessions and all different types of energy work. And at each session, I've experienced a deeper level of calm, a deeper grounding experience. So that anxiety and depression was no longer paralyzing. It was, again, just that peace, just my sleep improved, my instant reaction to life improved, not just that I can't, but gradually accepting I am who I am. This is my new normal. And through energy work, I can experience so much
Oops.
mental and physical healing.
Wow. Wow, Laura. This is really, really inspiring, really empowering. Okay, now talking about energy healing, now some skeptics or people they think of energy healing as a woo, while others experience it as life saving. So, how do you bridge this gap between the mystical and the practical when sharing your message through UB Global?
So I experienced that by saying, use me, especially when I'm working with people through the speaking, through the coaching, use my life as an experience, as an example, use me as an example. I was incredibly stubborn to think, again, this is all woo woo. It can't make any difference. It's not going to do anything. And honestly, it was out of stubbornness that I just tried it just to kind of prove my friend wrong.
Oh,
Like, oh, maybe it works with you, but it's not going to work for me. And it was incredibly, literally, exactly what you said. It was life saving. So
mhm.
as I work with people, I literally give them an example of how can I be peaceful? How can I experience inner calm and self compassion and self love in such a difficult transition of becoming blind, but also living every day in a sighted world, and I'm not sighted. So it can't be just woo woo because I'm literally living it. I've literally experienced it. So helping them first to use me as an example, but then also I always start with people just on the breath work. Maybe you're not ready to try energy healing yet, but let's start with the breath work and see what you experience from there. And then once they experience that power of the breath work, then move into mindfulness. And once they experience the power of mindfulness, then introducing different energy techniques. So that's my method with each person is start with the breath, move to mindfulness, and then move to the inner different types of energy work.
Of course. Wow. Okay. 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 And you talk a lot about grit and gratitude. Of course, your life itself is a testament to that. So, how do these principles integrate with your spiritual practice? I mean, can grit be spiritual, or is gratitude a frequency you work with intentionally?
Yes and yes. So with the grit, I love that question of is grit spiritual? Can that be a spiritual practice? And my life experience and my experience of working with so many different people, different ages, different life situations is absolutely because the grit, it takes incredible grit for us to acknowledge and accept I am worthy. I am enough. Who I am is who I am, and they're gifts to give this world. So
Mhm.
just the grit to take incredible courage, incredible perseverance, determination to trust yourself enough to be self compassion, to offer that self love to yourself. And a practical example of what I mean by this is what I say to myself and what I also work with people on is have the grit when you're in that space of you don't, you're being really hard or really critical to yourself. What would
Mhm.
you say to your best friend? And the response I give myself and the response I always hear is some form of compassion, of patience, of just, I'm here with you, supporting you. It's not that harsh judgment critical. So I help people, and again in myself, realize let's speak to ourselves with that same compassion. And
Mm.
my understanding of grit is that it's 100% spiritual because it takes a lot of courage to love ourselves, to be patient, to have that self compassion. And also, the other big piece of the grit spiritually is the trust. So,
Mm.
trusting that our gifts in this world matter. So, an example from my own experience when I was first becoming blind, my immediate response was, do I still matter? Do I still have gifts to give this world?
Mhm.
What's my purpose? Do I even have a purpose? And if I do have a purpose, what is that purpose? So I was completely focused on because I don't have sight, I don't have gifts.
Mm.
And what the gift of grit from that spiritual practice told me is trusting the gifts that I have, trusting that I do have purpose in the world, I do have meaning in the world, I do have something to contribute that the world needs. And that takes grit. When
Yep.
when I'm doubting myself, when others, are e either doubting me or just saying, "Oh, you're disabled. How can you," like,
Yeah.
whatever the feedback is, being able to stand in that with self-compassion and just trust, "Yes, I have gifts that matter." So, is grit spiritual? Absolutely, because of the trust and the self-compassion. And then speaking to the gratitude, like you said, just the energy, the frequency of gratitude has been incredibly healing and such a spiritual practice. And what I mean by the gratitude that perfectly balances out the grit is not the gratitude of, I'm so thankful that I'm blind. Like, I don't wake up every day and say, oh, I am grateful to be blind. This is exactly what I want in life. But what the gratitude is saying, I am so grateful for what helped me get through that transition. I'm grateful for the family, for the community around me that believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. I'm grateful for the guide dog that helps me navigate the world. I'm grateful for just those simple moments in life, just the breath work, nature, just being outside on a perfectly sunny day.
Mm.
So the gratitude is becoming aware of what we're thankful for in the midst of life. So integrating gratitude into our day-to-day life, not something that's separate. And what I found in myself and then also in the people I work with, having that mindset of gratitude, that lifestyle
Mhm.
gives us a different perspective. It moves us away from what you were saying, that deep block that we can often hold. Rather, it helps us accept, again, I am who I am, and I'm grateful for what's around me to support me.
Yeah. Lovely, lovely, Laura. That is so lovely. And some I'm just putting up a contradictory bit of a contrasting viewpoint here.
Yes.
I would believe that spirituality and energy healing, they can kind of become a form of escapism, avoiding the real work of therapy or grief,
Yes.
physical healing. So, what would you say to that, Laura?
100%. I'm so glad you brought that up because I've definitely been there, done that. So and that's where the gratitude comes in as well, because it is a balance of you can get so focused on the spiritual, exactly what you said. You use it as an escape, as something to be a distraction to the deep, deep work.
Mhm.
So again, a practical example of what I mean by that, for me, I have to live in the balance of, yes, these are my spiritual resources of breath work and mindfulness and all the forms of energy work that I do. And at the same time, there is space that I need to deeply, deeply grieve the difficulty of being a blind person in a sighted world. So, what that looks like for me is acknowledging the grief and at the same time accessing the spiritual resources. So, there was a time when I would think, oh, if I just, you know, focus only on spiritual practices, all the grief will go away. Or I don't need to do therapy, right? Or I don't need to even, eat well or exercise. I don't need to do anything but the spiritual work. And again, that's so harmful because that's just a form of escape. So for me, keeping the spiritual practice in balance, because again, I could go to that mindset of, oh, well, if I'm spiritual means I can never feel the emotional pain of being blind. I've just got to be happy, be spiritual. It's all for the higher good, just totally numb out.
Mm.
So the balance I found is, like I said, acknowledging the grief, accepting the therapy work, and at the same time moving through that grief with the spiritual practices so that it's not all I'm stuck in the grief and it's not all I just focus on the spiritual world so that I escape from my problems. So does that make sense? It's
Absolutely.
holding both in balance.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely makes sense. Lovely, lovely. So, Laura, before we wrap up, for those navigating their own versions of loss or challenge, change, especially listeners new to spirituality, what would you say is a gentle step, first step into exploring energy healing or tuning into their own energetic body?
Use my life as an example. I resisted spirituality and energy work for so long. And like we've talked about, I had that block. It's not gonna if it doesn't bring back my sight 2020, it's not worth doing. So use me as an example of just be willing to try. Just be open. And again, the first step to open to trying this path of spirituality, energy work is the gift of our breath. We all have it. It's all accessible to us. Just start with simple breath work. And I don't mean 8 hours of breath work, focusing on meditation and breath work a day. Even if you start with 5 minutes a day in the morning or 10 minutes at night before you go to sleep, just start focusing on the gift of your breath and let that take you forward.
Lovely, lovely. If our listeners would like to connect with you, Laura, what's the best way to do that?
So the best way is through my website, laurabratton.com.
Great. I'll have the details mentioned in the show notes. And thank you so much, Laura, for this, for reminding us that healing doesn't always come in the form we expect, and that sight isn't the only way to see. And definitely, your story is a beautiful invitation to trust the unseen and to anchor that gratitude and to courageously walk the unknown path as well. So, thank you so much.
Thank you for the opportunity to share.
So, listeners, I absolutely loved how Laura blends courage and surrender, two words that seem opposite, yet together they form a very powerful spiritual practice. And it definitely reminds me of how sometimes universe teaches us through paradox, losing sight yet gaining vision, slowing down yet expanding. And that's such a cosmic truth. So, to connect with Laura, just refer to the show notes along with this episode. And if you are navigating loss, change, or just a call to go deeper, may Laura's wisdom be a spark for your own journey. Until next time, keep seeking, keep feeling, and keep flowing in the cosmic confluence. I'm your host, Sana, and I'll meet you in the energy between the words. Thank you.